Hello and welcome to Sociology, Culture, and Diversity for the Medical Sciences. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 5, Health Traditions. So, for a couple of chapters, we're going to really delve into culture, a common way of life, and we're going to take a more of an anthropological approach and really looking at specifically what is it about these common ways of life that influence their attitudes toward health and illness and also their access, for example. So, to begin with, we're going to talk about health and illness again from the perspective of treating not just the body, but also treating the mind. But in this chapter, we start to go a bit further and we start to delve into the concepts of spirituality. And again, this is, whenever it's a sensitive topic, whenever you're talking about the big no-nos of the things you're not supposed to talk about out loud in a, formal educational setting or whatever. But again, we need to talk about the influence of religion because that's a major structure of our culture. And we also need to talk about spirituality because it's a structure of culture also. It's also a hot point for conflict. And again, if you look at religious wars throughout the, thousands of years of humanity that we have history for, you can tell that it's very extensive and it's been going on for an incredibly long time. But again, we need to be looking at it not so much from a conflict perspective, but more from a functionalist perspective of what's the purpose? What function does this serve? How does spirituality function and how does it serve people? But also, how does it structure our life, for example? Okay. So the book definitely focuses on how we should maybe take like a three-pronged approach, looking at both the body, the mind, and the potential soul. And, as a sociologist, we like to talk a lot about the social construction of reality and how religion is, a social construct as we create society and we build our cultures, for example. But again, I always like to go with the trump card of prove it, disprove it. No one really knows anything for sure. I mean, you might think you know something, so I don't want to argue against anyone who thinks they do know everything for sure. But again, prove that you exist, prove you don't exist. Prove you're tapped into a matrix right now, prove you're not. Okay, and it's the idea of, all things in life are subjective. There's no such true thing as objectivity because nobody can actually get out of their own head to even prove that they actually exist. So to question spirituality, again, as we should, it's life. We should be questioning everything and wondering, but in the end, we don't really know. And so for someone to just automatically dismiss spirituality in favor of science, that's one approach, but again, the point is we don't know. And so we need to really find out what drives and motivates people anyhow. And spirituality and religion are factors that influence a great many people. And if only for that reason we talk about it. We're not here to debate it, but we're really wondering, you know, is there an association between the two? And, we might not be able to prove that there's an association between the two. However, one doesn't know. So we need to be looking at this. But again, when we look through human history and we look at culture and we look at the association between culture and spirituality and religion and health and illness, now you're saying that it goes back deep, okay? I mean, for a long time, people prayed to many gods for many things, to take care of their children, to help them with the harvest, for example. So we have often looked outside of ourselves, okay? Even though you can't ever really get outside of your head for answers to some of these things about life and death, about health and illness, about balance and imbalance, okay? But again, it's life. Everything is constantly in flux. The goal is to find balance, maybe, but then, the universe leads toward chaos and entropy. So what's up with that, So there's stuff to ponder in this class. But, how can you deny that spiritual component? Well, I mean, when it comes to that, deny the fact that people do find that important. And again, we need even despite any of your own personal beliefs. And again, that's the idea of cultural competency is the heck what you think about anything. But let's look at what the patient thinks. Let's look at what the participant thinks, the person that we're talking about. Let's look at their worldview and let's try to help them and treat them holistically, to treat the whole person. Okay, and that's the idea of holistic things. Okay, you can't understand things just from the sum of its parts. You have to understand how all the parts work together to produce the whole, hence the idea of being holistic. So in this class, we need to focus on all parts of the person And so we're going to delve into the anthropological study of culture a little bit, and really kind of delve into spirituality and how does this influence people and what kind of objects have we used, because we all have little necklaces and earrings and trinkets and stuff that we've all had throughout human history. If you look really back into cultures and even in modern times, okay, there's a lot of idols to this and that, for example, okay? The idea of the health traditions model, though, again, is maintaining, protecting, and restoring. And okay, so to maintain, protect, and restore, how much do we need from all the little parts in life? Do we need a little bit of that physical help, a little bit of that mental help, a little bit of that spiritual help? Do we just need the physical help and no spiritual help? Every person's different, but that's the idea, is we need to be wondering, okay, how do we treat that person? What do they need? How do we maintain their sense of health, their self-defined perspective of what it means to be healthy, and to protect them from illness? And if they succumb to illness, what can we do to get their lives back in balance? Okay, and again, so this requires understanding a whole person, not just what they need for medicine. This understands, like, what do they need for their mind? How else can we be there to help? How can we be there to be of service? Okay, so again, culture is defined as a common way of life, and as you can see, culture and health go hand in hand. And if you look at just all the generations of humanity, going way back to the tribal times, to civilization being built, and again, I don't know how long civilization goes back. It could be hundreds of thousands of years. It's very arguable how old the Great Sphinx really is. Is it 4 to 5,000 years old, or is it 26,000 years old? We don't really know the answer, but the thing is, human culture goes way back, and the association with our culture and the association with health definitely runs deep. Okay, many ancient systems, if not all the ancient systems, had these cultural beliefs built in about life and death and health and illness and who to pray to for when and what do you need to do as a sacrifice for this and that. And so, again, we've had objects, we've had substances, we've had spirituality and religion, and all of these have filled a void. What kind of rituals did we do when somebody was sick? What kind of rituals do we do when somebody dies? What do we put on their tombstone, or do we burn them? What's the question? What's all about health and illness? But again, what you put on someone's tombstone and whether or not you have a tombstone and whether or not you burn them is all influenced by the culture in which you lived. I figure when I get, hopefully I grow to be 100 million years old, etc. But, have nice Viking death where they put you on a raft and shoot the burning arrow. Is that, a cultural belief system? And yeah, but that's the idea of what we're talking about. All the ancient societies have different burial, life, ceremonies, different birth ceremonies, different traditions, okay? Different reasons to do this and that, different ways to heal and treat things. You have your herbal medicines, you have your scientific medicines, and then the scientific medicines might just be taking the herbal medicines and making them more concentrated, for example. Stuff like that, okay? But the idea is we need to be looking at culture and how that influences our attitudes toward health. But then that involves all of these rituals, these value systems, these practices, these artifacts, okay? These things that we culturally produce from generation to generation, our sense of spirituality and how our spirituality is constructed through social interaction as we learn to understand and use words to describe our sense of spirituality. And then religion again. Religion is a structure of society, something that structures many people's daily lives, still in modern times and has for thousands of years and millennia before that. But again, how much of religion has been socially constructed, and then how much of religion is truth or fact? And that's the answers that we might never know. But the idea is religion influences other people. And it matters to people. And so does these cultural ideals. And even if you don't believe in what they're saying, even if science disregards what they're saying, can you prove it or can you disprove it? How much do you know and how much do you not know? So again, we need to be treating the mind, body, and the soul in this class. Okay. Healthcare choices, again, this is highly influenced by our socioeconomic status. So the groups that you identify with, the groups that you belong to, again, as we've discussed, are associated with your access to healthcare, and you're also associated with the culture that you get socialized into. So the groups you belong to matter not just for your access, but it determines what group you get socialized into, what culture you get socialized into, what way of life. You are socialized into traditions. At this holiday we do this and this. On this day we do this and this. Okay? You've been socialized into ways of life, and a lot of it is unconscious. Okay? So, our the socialization process again, it's a lot of it's unconscious, a lot of it's your cognition, your personal interpretation of life, your experiences, interpreting the stimuli in the environment, for example. Okay? So the book definitely gets back into the different healthcare philosophies, again, associated with socioeconomic status, because in modern times you had this modern advent of modern medicine, but modern medicine came about as the bureaucracy of society grew. As society became more formal, more specialized. And so you had these people that left the farms and began working on just medicine. But back in the day, people didn't necessarily weren't able to leave the farms and then go pursue life as a doctor. So folk medicine was something that's been around for ages. And we all have the books from our great 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 grandmother that told us exactly how to cure different, illnesses and things like this. Okay, so the idea of health and illness and taking care of this goes back for millennia. Humans have constantly been trying to help people and trying to deal with the health, but they didn't necessarily have this modernized society with all the technologically advanced medicine that we have in modern times. So there were a lot of folk remedies that have been going around for millennia that still exist to this day. Okay. There are different healthcare philosophies, such as do we treat the person or do we treat the disease? And again, that's the holistic approach. It's not just treating the disease, but we treat the person too. In order to treat the person, we have to treat the disease. In order to treat the disease, we got to treat the person who's going to be end up fighting off the disease. So again, it's that back and forth biopsychosocial process. Okay. And then alternative medicines, even still modern times, despite all the advances, we've done so much success through ancient times of these alternative medicines, and we have found that there is an effect to some of these. But the only question is, do they have as much of an effect as like a pill might have? But that's the question, how do you help a mental patient, for example, somebody who's, treating something with like psychological distress? Do you give them a pill or do you just talk to them? Because, a pill is one solution, but there's a lot of other solutions too. And sometimes the pill might be the last resort. So sometimes we might want to refer to these folk or alternative medicines as a different approach. But the point of all that is there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of cultural knowledge. And so again, if we look beyond the American technologically advanced society and look out to what else is out there, we also might have a lot new, more discoveries. If we actually think outside the box of this modern technological medicine, what might we find? How much, information is there to folk medicine and alternative medicines? Things to think about, okay? Thank you again so much. Please email with any questions. Have a wonderful day.